Hello and welcome to this video on virtual environments for digital humanists. I haven't really seen a good video out there that talks in depth about virtual environments, specifically geared towards digital humanists, and how we should probably think about and consider using them. So I'm going to cover that in this video. If you don't know what they are, if you don't know how to get started with them, you will by the end. So what is a virtual environment? A virtual environment, and this is a GUI representation of it, is a small little living, breathing installation of Python and libraries on your computer system that remains separate and distinct from the main one that you have. When you install Python on your computer, it places it in program files wherever it might be. When you install packages, it goes to the site packages folder if you're on a Windows computer system. So when you try to run Python in Atom or an IDE or in Terminal, and you try to import a library, when you import that library, it's going to be the version that is installed in the site packages. So why are virtual environments useful? Well, in the case study right now, I am preparing a video series on text classification for Spacey 3.0. But I've got Spacey 2.0 installed in my site packages. So that's the main library that I work with when I work in Python for many different projects that involve Spacey. However, I'm slowly starting to integrate Spacey 3.0 into all of my projects. However, all the other projects' code will break if I import Spacey 3.0. This is where a virtual environment is absolutely essential. It allows for you to have multiple versions of Python and libraries all installed on one computer system, but within little tiny environments that allow for you to only use those libraries and packages that are in that environment. So I thought I'd introduce you all to where to go to start working with environments, and that's going to be on Anaconda's website, which I'll get to in just a second, and really kind of show you how to set one up from the ground up. So what we want to do is we want to go over to the Anaconda website, anaconda.com, and from here you can go to Products and Individual Edition, and once that comes up, you can go all the way down to the bottom, and you'll have the ability to actually download, if depending on your operating system, download the 64-bit or 32-bit. For my case, it's Windows. Go ahead and download whichever one of these are most useful for you. Walk through the installation process, and you'll have Anaconda installed. And what that's going to install for you is essentially two things: Anaconda and the Conda terminal prompt, and the Anaconda Navigator. So that's what this is here. This is the Anaconda Navigator. When you first install this, you'll have really just one root environment. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a custom environment using this GUI version, and then I'll show you how we can kind of pip install different things onto a special environment. So let's go ahead for right now. I'm going to remove this one right here that I've got, the text classification underscore Spacey underscore 3x. We're going to remove that and kind of create a new one. All right. It'll take it a second to remove. But what we're going to do is we're going to make a new one. Let's just call this one, I'm going to call it text class Spacey 3x. That way it's a little different. And if you notice, I am prompted to select which version of Python or R I want. I can choose either one. I'm only going to be working with Python in this video series, so I'm going to select Python 3.8. Now, if you notice, I can select all these different versions. Sometimes a library will not be supported by the newest version of Python, and so therefore it's useful and important to install a previous version. So that's the first thing you're going to want to select. Once you do that, the new environment will be automatically created. Now, it will take it a second. If you notice down here, you can see exactly where it's placing the environment. And so what we can do is we can click on the environment once it's fully installed, and we can make that environment active. And when that environment is activated, that means that everything that you're doing in Python within that environment will only go to the Python version that you have installed with it and the libraries that you have installed with it. So were I to open up my terminal and I were to import, if I do Python and then I import Spacey, you'll notice that it says no modules named Spacey. However, if I were to open up command prompt, and this is my general version now, notice that there is no root here. I'll talk about that in a second. And I would just simply do Python import Spacey, you'll notice that I am able to do it. Now when Spacey open, I can start actually introducing Spacey commands. Spacey equals NLP equals Spacey.load. I can pass an N core web. You get the idea. But I don't have a the ability to use Spacey within this environment because if we look at our list of packages right here, Spacey is not installed. So let's go ahead and just, we're going to exit out of that for right now. And we're going to just open up a new one. There's a better way to do it. I'm just ignoring it. So we're going to zoom in and we can pip install Spacey. And what this is going to do is it's going to go through and download Spacey for us and install it actually on our system within that special environment. If you notice that it's installing Spacey 3.0. You'll see that Spacey is now installed correctly on this environment. We have got Spacey right here, and it tells us even what version. It's Spacey 3.0.5. So that's how you know that you've actually installed everything correctly. And now, if I were to open back up the terminal, zoom in so you can see better, and I were to go to Python and I were to import Spacey, you'll see that now Spacey imports just as it should. And in fact, it's actually Spacey version 3.0, not 2.0. So that's how you really work with environments and install packages specifically in them. Now, that's all I really need for this video series, so I'm only going to be installing Spacey on this environment. However, let's say I wanted to start coding something in that environment and I didn't want to use the terminal, which is typically the way in which I do things is with either Jupyter Labs or with Notebook or with Spider or with anything like that. So if I'm in this environment, I'm in text class Spacey 3x, I need to install Jupyter Lab because that's the way I'm going to present my my tutorial in this video. Usually I use Atom, and I can show you how to activate Atom within your environment as well. So we have to install the different the unique IDEs here. In this case, I've got Jupyter Lab not installed in the base. Instead, I have to install it manually for each individual environment, and it'll take it a few minutes to install. If, however, you're more interested in using an IDE across all of your environments, I encourage you to install them on your root so that you can have access to it. And this would be probably good practice if you use Jupyter Lab for everything. I, however, don't. I sometimes like to work in Atom when I'm writing code on the fly. And while this is downloading, let's go ahead and demonstrate how you would actually open up Atom within your environment. So what I can do is I can go over here into my environments, and let's just open it back up in the terminal. Once this is up, I know that I'm working in this environment because it has the name text underscore class underscore Spacey 3x. So what I want to do is I want to simply type in the command atom dash dash new dash instance. It's important that it's spelled exactly like this. And if I execute this, you'll find that Atom opens and it opens up in a new instance. And with this environment, within this environment, I can actually work with Atom now at this point. Now, it's important to remember that Atom really doesn't work well with environments, in my opinion. I haven't found a good way to integrate this in my workflow. This is just generally how you can do it. What I recommend, however, is if you're working with environments to, for me, get out of my comfort zone and really work with Jupyter Lab. And underneath Home, you'll see that Jupyter Lab is now installed under this environment. And you can bounce back and forth between all of your different environments here. So if I want to open up my an environment which I can work with it in an IDE like Jupyter Lab, I simply click Launch. And when I click Launch, Jupyter Lab will come up. And it's open up my other screen. If I bring it over, we'll see that it's everything that you'd expect. You see it underneath there. And this is some code I'm working on for an article coming out. That's the last thing that was uploaded in my Jupyter Lab. But we see that we have Jupyter Lab up and running. And it's going to be interesting. You're going to see an error here if I try to run this, because even though this is code that I've written for another project, I've opened it up inside of my new environment, which doesn't have TensorFlow installed. And so you see I get an error. So that's generally how you kind of work with environments and how you would open up a distinct environment inside of an IDE. That's going to really kind of be it for this video, I think. Going forward in another video, I might talk a little bit about how you engage with environments and the terminal and the command prompt. If I were you though, and I were just starting out with Python, just starting to learn the basics, don't worry about environments. They're not for you yet. Focus on just learning the basics of data and coding in Python. Once you get a good basis in that and you start working on multiple projects, or you're involved with multiple teams, or you're working with different GitHub repos, when you get to that stage, that's when I would dedicate the time to learning about environments. That's going to be it for this video, though. If there's questions, leave them in the comments down below. I might take this video and turn it into a series in the future, but I just wanted to kind of get this out there now so that the audience had a good idea about what environments were, when to use them, and most importantly, why you should use them. If you've gotten that from this video, then I've done my job. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe down below, and visit us at pythonhumanities.com.